Next on, we have a panel discussion on understanding emerging cybersecurity technologies as opportunities for SMEs. I invite on stage Mr. Vinayak Godse, CEO, Data Security Council of India, to kindly moderate the session. Mr. Godse has over 27 years of experience in information technology, IT transformation, intelligent networking, and telecom infrastructure. He also leads the National Center of Excellence for Cybersecurity Technology and Entrepreneurship, a joint initiative of DSCI and Ministry of Electronics and IT. Thank you, sir. We are also joined by our esteemed speaker, Dr. Sanjay Bahl, Director General, CERT-In. Dr. Bahl also has a rich international experience to his credit in his capacities as a resource person for the UN APCICT and as the European Service Delivery Manager for 12 nations of Europe. Also join me in welcoming Mr. Kunal Bajaj, Chief Business Officer, eSec Forte, skilled in business planning, computing, and vendor management. Mr. Bajaj is a strong business development professional with a Master of Business Administration from Xavier Institute of Management. Over to you, Mr. Godse.
Yeah, thank you. In this session, because probably this is before lunch, but one of the important areas to cover. So we'll talk about both. So cybersecurity is a cause of concern, but it also provides a lot of opportunity for businesses to build their product and services, basically. With Dr. Bahl in here, who looks at the overall India cyberspace and also engage with global leaders which are engaging to secure the global cyberspace. I'd like to start with, sir, what kind of challenges that you see as of now in terms of way things are evolving in cyberspace and digitization we are seeing other side?
Good afternoon. Am I audible?
Yeah.
A lot of people waiting for lunch. Voice is not coming out.
Yeah.
I guess after that session on 3Es and alpha teams and colors and all that, and I guess people asking how was the Josh, this is a pretty dry subject which has been put before lunch. I guess the audience here is the SME segment. So how much is the contribution of SMEs to the GDP?
In Indian context, how much is the contribution of SME in overall GDP of the country?
Overall, how much is the contribution to the GDP by the SMEs? Any idea? So 20%, 30%, 35%, 70%. Any other figures? 90%. Wow. So it is ranging between 30 to 60%. All right, so this segment is super critical if we want the GDP to grow. And do you know what is the percentage of this SMEs being targeted for cyber attacks? So what percentage? Any idea, any guesses? $100. Give me a break. 60 to 70. They desperately need lunch. So 43% of cyber attacks are targeted towards the SME segment, right? So that just shows you this is where the malicious actors will go, because you're contributing to up to between 30 to 60% to the GDP. So obviously they are running after the money. And almost 43 to 45% of the attacks are onto you. So do you think cybersecurity is important? Or it is just a tick mark that yes, from a compliance perspective, yes, we also have cybersecurity? Do you think it is required to retain your customers? Is it a quality factor? So if you have a car, you have airbags, you got seat belts, so those are safety and quality factors. So if you don't have those and brakes, would you go for a car? right? So, so basically what is important is you want to retain your customers, you will have to provide safety and security from your products. And so if you look at e-commerce, there's a rise in e-commerce, almost $9 trillion is expected in digital transactions by next year, which is an increasing 60% over the last 4 years. And these are being infected by malware and botnets. So Vinayak was asking me what is the sort of threat landscape. So you have malware and botnets which are targeting these. The digital banking itself, if you look at it, 50% of the world will be using digital wallets by next year. So what is going to happen here? We're already seeing a lot of fake apps which people are using without knowing that these are fake apps. They are having identity theft, they're losing money, etc. So there's a lot of crime happening because of that. If you look at Internet of Things, almost 27 billion is the estimated number of IoT devices by 2025. Now these will also be riddled with malware and botnets, right? We are already seeing Mirai botnet, etc., which were infecting these IoTs, and a whole lot of information being taken off. Any guesses on what is the sort of attacks on passwords every second? How many passwords are cracked every second? Any guesses? 1, 2, 10, 100, 1,000, 550,000, what? 1 lakh? Million? I'm saying every second. So there are 1,287 password attacks every second. So if you think you've just put a password and you are safe, think again. You need to have good, strong passwords. You all heard about phishing? Yes, no? Like go on the riverside and then fish, or what? Catch a trout or something? So what's phishing? Anyone? Fake emails. Anything else? You're pretending to be legitimate and you click on them and then you have malware dropped into your system, etc. So there are over 700 million phishing attacks per week. Now if you have that many attacks, what will happen? Whatever data you have because of this malware which is going to be dropped on you, you will have malware dropped and you will have data leaks and breaches. So we've seen a lot of SMEs who've not understood what they're doing because they have sensitive data of customers, and that data has now been leaked or breached and it's available in the darknet. So are they responsible or not? So they've not even understood the implications of what is the impact. And because there are certain regulations through the IT Act, and they have to comply to it. So if they have had a breach or an impact or a leak, they have to report those within 6 hours of them knowing about it to CERT. They're supposed to maintain logs for about 180 days so that investigations can be carried out. They have to ensure that the time protocol is followed so that the time is known correctly as to when it happened, whether it happened only from India or from across the borders. They also have to nominate a CISO or a point of contact with whom one can have a conversation and get the details. Depending on the type of activities you are doing, you may have to know your customer and maintain those details, etc. You heard about ransomware these days? So 44% have been impacted by ransomware and they did not have a backup. So if you do not have a backup, how are you going to restore anything? How is your business going to come back to life? It will just shut down. You will not be able to do anything. You will wind up very soon. Similarly, what we've noticed based on incidents, the endpoints or the laptops, desktops, etc., which are being used, they are all old versions of unsupported software. They're not even being patched. And these are being exploited for vulnerabilities which are known, and various advanced persistent threat as well as nation state actors are exploiting this. So I have tried to give you a picture of what is the threat landscape along with some figures.
Yeah.
I hope that will give you an idea as to what it is and
Yeah.
where you are and what sort of minefield you are in.
Yeah. So overall, I think the kind of threat landscape that we all are experiencing, and some organizations themselves could probably respond to them and probably try to take some kind of proactive measures, but uh, there is also compliance requirement, right? So each organization, which is a kind of a body corporate registered company, if there is a security incident happen, there is an obligation now, and some liability also comes with that obligation that force you to probably report that to CERT India, and there are other obligations also makes you responsible and obligated liable to the cybersecurity requirement, because health of the cyberspace is an overall responsibility of the government of India, and because of that, and also the health of global cyberspace is also responsibility of other countries as well. So that's why there's obligation liability that do come in when you manage your business in a digital space. But also this provides the opportunity in cybersecurity space, because there are a lot of people here like to understand. So Kunal, you had been building business in cybersecurity for last 10 years plus and had seen the way things has grown with the eSec Forte. Can you help us understand how this business can be built out? What are the opportunities you have seen until now, and what opportunities you see from now in the coming future?
Thank you, Vinayak. Again, it's a privilege to share stage with Dr. Bahl. I think they've collectively done so much to secure our country. I mean, there is, like Dr. Bahl said, there is so much ingress of attack coming our way. We don't have very friendly neighbors, right? And data is the new oil. There is data in everything. The way digitization is happening in the country, the way UPI is replacing transactions, the way startups are coming up in a massive manner, there is so much threat surface that we have to protect. Now, as a company, we started about 11 years ago, and to be honest, like Sir said, that a lot of people look at security as a compliance checkpoint. I mean, we sit on the wrong side of the balance sheet, right? I mean, IT is always the expense, and we are always the questionable part during a board meeting. That paranoia which people have seen now with ransomware attacks, with phishing attacks, with companies losing billions of dollars in market capitalization because they were breached, or they had a ransomware attack, or they did not have a backup strategy. A lot of mature organizations are now looking at security heads reporting directly to the board, which means your risk that an organization faces from attack surface is all directly reported to the board. With that aspect, I think since most of my friends here are business owners or sitting in high chairs, whenever you run a business, there are two prominent questions that every organization has. A, the business that I'm going to start or the business that I'm in, what is the addressable market? How big is the market that I address? And B, how easy is it to run business? Ease of business, as we've been hearing for the last 8 or 9 odd years. If I talk specific of security, and I naturally would, because that's what we've been doing and we are quite passionate about it, there have been some significant initiatives that have been taken in our country, and I talk specifically of India and our neighbors. There is Digital India, there is NPCI, there is startups, there is COVID happened, right? Where you see, we are the largest consumer of data globally. We are the largest in terms of carrying out digital transactions. I mean, our count for last year till December was about 90 billion transactions. The second closest country to us is China, which is about 30 billion. So imagine the kind of magnitude that we produce in terms of our digital footprint. And of course, securing it becomes equally important, right? So there is your addressable market. Now, if I talk about ease of doing business, and I'm not talking about, how easy is it to register a company. Let's talk from an MSME perspective. A lot of you would have faced, payment default issues from your clients, where they refuse to pay you or, your payments are deferred. it obviously impacts your working capital. You would either go to an OD way, you would open a bank loan, you would raise debt, or you would push your clients to pay, or you would defer your payments, right? Now, last 7 odd years, there is so much emphasis on protecting MSME where by law, you're now supposed to receive your payments in less than 45 days.
So Kunal, the question is largely an IT SME, right, which is providing IT services. What are in this security market basically which can entice them probably, that can help them to even build their own security capabilities as well actually. So question is, how big is the market for them to enter in the cybersecurity?
So market is huge. Like Sir said, I mean, there is, the threat landscape is so massive. The future is now looking at SCADA and IoT devices.
Yeah.
You're looking at cloud. I think COVID pushed a massive cloud transformation journey. You are now supposed to, as a mandate, you're supposed to have logging capabilities. You're supposed to have timing protocol in place. And this applies to every organization.
So the compliance is certainly one important driver to create this market. So is the internal urge to secure your asset basically. If you had to really little bit dissect this market in terms of the capability that you have with you and others, some company like yourself. So what are those capability, what are those service lines basically that you had really put together to make sure that you leverage out of these possibilities created?
So I would say if I talk from an MSME perspective, and I'm
no, it's large as well, because
so
a lot
the
of
reason
large company can, small company can serve large companies as well. Right?
I think the reason I'm focusing on MSME is because large organizations already have those controls in place.
Yeah.
The basic checks and balances are already there for large organizations, because when you have a global exposure, your clients expect you to deliver a secured product or a secured service.
Mm-hmm.
Quality of service definitely, but security is a big part of it. The MSME segment is, I would say, a large percentage of MSME is still trying to scratch the surface in terms of having the basic security controls in place.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of, there is this massive expectation from clients across the world where they expect you to have basic sanitation in place.
And is it easy to get the skills to deliver on, so how difficult is to deliver the projects like this?
I think delivering requires 2 aspects: your skill set in terms of resources. B is the capital part that I was referring to. Now we are a very young population, as we all know, right? And we've got enough engineers that we produce every year. And there is now this massive, education change which is happening towards cybersecurity.
Mm-hmm.
So acquiring that resources has not been easy, but that trend is changing. I mean, that trend is changing where you can have a resource pool which can deliver on cybersecurity.
Yeah. So Dr. Bahl, we talked about what is happening now, but from now to coming possible future in the coming 3-4 years of time, people say by some years, 5-6 years down the line, probably we'll be spending 400 million plus on cybersecurity per year basically. So what do you see how security will be evolving from now in coming 4-5 years of time, and can we really estimate how things will be emerging, and do we have those capabilities to serve or to satisfy those requirements coming from business side and from the compliance side as well?
So I think we are sitting in very challenging times, because if you're seeing the evolution of technology, it is just changing everything. For example, you're going to have 5G coming in. You already have cloud. Now you've seen AI or things like ChatGPT, deepfakes, a whole lot of stuff happening, and it is going to be extremely challenging as to what you need to do. So if you say, can you visualize what will happen in the next 4-5 years? Well, I do not know about the next 4-5 months. You are talking about years.
Yeah.
So with 5G, it is going to be whatever was happening in a year will happen in a jiffy, like a couple of seconds. So in terms of attacks, etc. So I think it is extremely important to understand that while I do understand that from the MSME segment, there is a lack of money, there is a lack of capacity, and there is lack of awareness on all these things. But at the end of the day, they require solutions which will protect their office, their remote locations, as well as whatever work they are doing on the cloud. So if you see, they will have to secure their front doors, they will have to secure their devices, and most of all, they'll have to secure their data. So how do you do all these things? Can you look at solutions which are innovative, cost-effective, and managed solutions? So if you look at managed solutions, can you think of a community SOC which will address the requirements? Yeah. How many of you know what is a SOC? No one. So probably I'm talking to a wall. Yeah. A security operations center, have you heard of that? Yes, no? So I don't think it is feasible for each one of you to set up a security operations center. So it'll be easier to look at vertical segments where people can combine together and say that, okay, we want a security operations center which will keep monitoring us 24/7 and let us know if there is any incident, etc. And also help us from compliance perspective, also help us to ensure that we are delivering the right services and products for our customers. As I also mentioned that you have to have a point of contact or a chief information security officer. Again, if you are a small organization, about 5-10 people, you probably will not be in a position to have someone dedicated for this. So can you look at having a virtual chief information security officer who could be addressing the requirements of not just your organization, but a few other organizations also, and take advantage of the virtual SOC which has been set up and advise you as to what needs to be done. So at the end of the day, there are solutions which are available in terms of practical free tools and resources in one place. For example, if you go to the MasterCard site, you will be able to look at things they have provided for the SME segment to download free tools, look at the compliance requirements, and do a self-audit, which will tell you what is open, what is closed, etc. If you go to the CERT's website on Cyber Swachhta Kendra, you can download free tools to clean up your systems of bot and malwares. And these are, again, developed by the industry, freely downloadable. We have already more than 32 lakh downloads for these tools, and you can use them. So I think you have to look at taking advantage of these things, but at the end of the day, you also have to look at what are your assets, applying this basic hygiene in terms of updating a software, applying patches, using strong, unique, and two-factor authentication passwords, etc. Because I did mention what are the issues. Looking at using antivirus, ensuring that you have backups, protecting your email using technologies like DMARC, etc. So I'm not going to go into the technical sides of it, but some of these things is what is critical, and this is basic hygiene. So it's just like Kunal mentioned about COVID. So you know that you have to wash your hands, maintain safe distance, cover your nose and mouth. All this is also part of basic hygiene which has to be maintained and taken care of if you want to make sure that you are going to be safe and secure.
Thank you, sir. And I'm sure before the lunch we could able to really throw some light in terms of the challenges of a cybersecurity and also the opportunity that you can leverage from and it throws basically. So in the interest of time, probably we'll have to close this session, and over the lunch, if you want to talk to any of the speakers, please feel free to contact. But in the shortest possible time, please join me to give a big hand to both of my co-panelists to help us understand challenges and opportunities of the cybersecurity area. Thank you, Kunal. Thank you, Dr. Bahl.
Thank you so much to our esteemed panelists for this very crucial and important discussion. Myself, I work with a Big Four firm as a financial consultant. So I would say this is a very omnipresent issue, not just for SMEs, for all enterprises of all scales and sizes. So thank you for breaking it down for all of us. I now request Mr. Vinayak Godse to kindly present a memento to Dr. Sanjay Bahl. Mr. Kunal Bajaj. Thank you, sir.